A writer born to describe Beijing's traditional court style, he entertained and challenged his peers at a time of tremendous social change. Now, a new generation can appreciate his genius. 5 short stories are brought to the stage, tales of conflict and farce in 5 acts of life. The great writer Lao She, in this episode of Center Stage. Beijing in the 1920s, a once powerful imperial capital, was struggling to come to terms with sudden and dramatic political change. While the city faced uncertainty and social upheaval, the rest of the country was being swept by revolution and the threat of war. Beijing became a hotbed of intellectual activity. A new generation of socially aware writers emerged. One of their leaders was Lao She. Born and raised in a typical Beijing courtyard house, Lao She had first-hand experience of the distinctive lifestyle of the city's narrow alleyways. By his mid-20s, he was creating fictional accounts based on what he saw and heard. As one of the leading writers of his generation, Lao She was hugely popular among his contemporaries. His novels were widely read, and his plays drew vast crowds to theaters. Today, he is best remembered for his novels, Rickshaw Boy, and 4 Generations in a Family, and his plays, Long Shu Ditch, and Teahouse.
嘎噔嘎噔的响。老师，这得多少钱呢？您喜欢呢？行嘞，行嘞，让给您了。一句话5两银子。哎呦，您拿着玩儿去，多的您玩腻了不想要了，你把它还给我，我照数退钱呢。
国民政府回来了，这工厂也不怎么就成了密产了。
Less well known than his great novels and plays are Lao She's short stories. In 2010, 5 of these unexplored treasures were adapted to the stage and performed in Hong Kong and Beijing. Collectively known as 5 Acts of Life, they were chosen by Lao She's own son.
他的短篇小说的第一个特点就是有头有尾，有故事情节。虽然呢只是一个小故事，另外呢就是老舍先生以写这个人物见长，他的语言又非常好，所以他天生的是改编成舞台剧的好的这个文本。
Lao She published his first novel in 1926. His first collection of short stories came out 8 years later. He himself always said he found it more difficult to write short stories than novels. As a lecturer at the University of London for 5 years in the mid-1920s, he counted among his literary influences Charles Dickens and Joseph Conrad. Incorporating their literary realism, Lao She gave his short stories a satirical and humorous style. It's a trait that is emphasized in the stage adaptation 5 Acts of Life. Liu's Compound is the story of a tenant household in a Beijing courtyard house. A young wife hangs herself after being physically and mentally abused by her husband's family.
甭叫唤，一会儿再把他魂儿给招出来。
你别吓唬我，我嫂子上吊可不怨我。
不怨你，